quadratic graphs. Okay, we're going to cover quadratic graphs in about an hour, then we're going to have a break, then we're going to do trial and improvement in about. So the objectives for today. 2 objectives for quadratic graphs. The first one is all about the first 2 questions you'll get in the exam, and that is substitution, where you're going to generate the points. You have to put x values in to work out what you're going to plot against the y, and that's all to do with substitution, and then you're going to plot that lovely parabola, that arc. Okay? And the second bit is using it to solve equations, and that's really a doddle. And that's where, once you've drawn the arc, you've done your substitution, you've drawn your arc, they're going to say solve it when y has a value, and it's dead easy. Because when y equals something, what do we do on a graph? If I said y equals 4, what would you do on a graph? What sort of line is that? Brilliant, a horizontal line across 4, and where it cuts your parabola, that gives you the values of x that solve the equation, and you'll see that at the end and you'll be amazed how easy it is. The reason this is at the end is because in theory it's one of the hardest things, but once you learn how they're going to ask you the question in the exam, there's 3 simple things you really need to do. Bit of substitution, bit of drawing that line and reading off an x-axis, okay? And it'll all come together neatly at the end. Right, so your smart recap. What I'd like you to do is I want you to substitute the value for x as 3 and minus 2 in that quite complicated looking equation. But it isn't complicated because you can read. Okay, so those of you who are struggling to get going, the way to look at this is to ask yourself, what does this mean? If I rewrite this and I say y equals, let's break it down into longhand. So we know algebra is shorthand. What's it telling me to do here in longhand? 2 times whatever the value of x is, but I've got to square it. So what does squaring it mean?
Times itself.
Times it by itself, so let's do that. Times it by itself, and then take away 3. That's what it's telling me to do. So now when I stick my value of x in, what rule then kicks in with all these multipliers and BIDMAS? So BIDMAS says I've got to do the squared first, I've then got to multiply it by 2, and then I've got to take away the 3. That's what BIDMAS tells me to do, isn't it? So when I do that with a value of 3, you'll get the answer. So those of you who haven't quite cottoned on to what's going on, now that I've given you that clue, have a go at putting 3 into that equation now that it looks in longhand a lot simpler. So those of you who are struggling will now go through it. So righties, tell me what I'm going to put in here for this equation. It becomes 2 times 9 minus 3. So can you see how we got the 9? 3 times 3, yeah? So what's next?
2 times 9 is 18.
Good. So it becomes 18 minus 3 because we do the multiplication. So the answer for that one is 15. Are you happy with that?
Yeah.
Let's do exactly the same thing for the minus 2 then. So y equals 2 times what? What is minus 2 times minus 2?
Minus 2 times minus 2 is 4.
Good, positive 4. So it becomes 2 times 4 minus 3. So the next thing I do is
2 times 4,
which is 8 minus 3 gives me 5. Okay, so we've got our answers. 15 when I stick 3 in, and 5 when I stick minus 2 in. So can you see how we're going to plot a graph? We're going to stick in a value of x into a complicated equation, and it's going to give us a value of y, and we're going to go to our graph and go, it's x against y, put a little cross there, do that for half a dozen of them, and draw our parabolas. Yeah. So what is a quadratic equation? What do we say a quadratic graph was? What does it have to have?
X squared.
Brilliant. Okay, so a quadratic equation has to have an index of 2. That's what the 2 is. It's an index or a power. Okay, so somewhere on here, any of these is a quadratic equation that will give you a quadratic graph when you do substitution. Okay, so y equals x squared we'll draw is the most simple quadratic graph you can draw. Y equals x squared plus 4, slightly more complicated, and then really, really complicated, y equals x squared plus 3x plus 5. All of those 3 equations will give you a quadratic graph of some description because they all have this in them, and that's what dictates the shape of a line. If I had a straight line, what would it have to have only in it? Y equals what?
Y equals x.
Yeah, x with just x, okay? So if I drew y equals 2x, it would draw me a straight line. If I draw y equals 2x squared, it draws me a parabola. When it's positive, you get a smiley face. When it's negative, so y equals minus 2x squared, guess what it draws?
Sad face.
Okay? So even before you've drawn your parabola, you can actually get a feel of where it's going to go. If it's a positive 2x squared, it's going to be smiley, and if it's negative, it's going to be grumpy. Yeah?
I remember that because that's how I feel when I see minuses.
There you go. And you're going to see a few more today. You're having a grumpy day today. Okay? So when you see equations like this, y equals 2x, that's not going to draw it. It's going to draw what? Straight line. Y equals x cubed plus 7.
Smiley.
No.
One. Upside Oh. down.
No. What's the power of x?
Oh, it's 2. That's not 2.
That's not 2, it's 3. Right. So the bottom line of a quadratic graph is it has to contain somewhere in it the equation x squared. It's got to have x squared in it somewhere. Okay. So let's look at a quadratic graph. In fact, we're not going to look at any quadratic graph. We're going to look at the simplest quadratic graph. It doesn't get any simpler. We've stripped everything away. We've just got y equals x squared. I'm going to show you how it works. Okay. We've got x and a value for y. So normally in the exam, they won't get you to fill in an empty table because you don't know where to start your range of numbers, and they want to force you to draw it an even amount either side so you get that lovely U shape. If I give you numbers over here, you just end up with something going up there somewhere. So in the exam, they won't give you a blank table. They'll fill stuff in, and they'll probably give you values of x like this. Okay? Could have put more in, but I'm lazy. So all we have to do is we've got a value for x and stick it in there to work out our value of y. So when I put minus 2 into there for x, what's y?
4.
Positive 4. Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Because when I square minus 2, I get a positive 4. And I put minus 1 in there, what's y?
1.
Positive 1. Put 0 in,
0.
put 1 in,
1.
and 2 in.
4.
Everyone happy with how we did that? Yeah? No?
Sorry.
Right. I gave you values for x, okay? So when you put that, swap that x for that value, it creates an answer. So the first number we put in there was minus 2. So it becomes minus 2 squared. So what's the result of squaring minus 2?
4.
Positive 4. So when I put minus 2 in for x, it throws out a value for y, which is 4, because y is equal to whatever x is squared. And we just went along with each of the numbers and we got a value for y. Okay? So now, what you'll be expected to do is go to a blank graph and plot it. So if I go minus 2, I plot 4, I go to minus 1 on the x, and I plot 1 on the y, 0, 0, 1 for the x is 1 on the y, and 2 on the x is 4 on the y. And you get a graph that goes something like that. And you'll be expected to freehand it, because there's a right way and a wrong way of drawing these that I'll show you in a second. You do not use a ruler. If you use a ruler, you will lose the mark for drawing the quadratic graph, as simple as that. You have to freehand it, okay? And your graph looks something properly drawn like that. So the quadratic graph for y equals x squared looks like that. It's a parabola, okay? Because it's positive, we know it's a smiley face. And this point here is the minimum value, okay? So it's basically where the curve bottoms out. Yeah? So you might be asked for a minimum value. And if it was the other way around, if it was minus y equals minus x squared, which way would my parabola go? Grumpy. So it would go like that. And here, the point there is the maximum point of your parabola, because it's the other way around. Yeah? Okay. Lots of, what? Don't worry, you'll get your chance in a minute. We're just talking about the theory now. You're going to get lots of hands on in a minute. So as I said, there's a right way and a wrong way to draw these things. The right way is to freehand it. People were being overly critical with themselves last night and yesterday afternoon drawing these things. If you don't hit each of your x's, it's fine. Okay? It's like real life, really. Okay? If you don't hit each of those crosses, you're fine. But being freehand is better than doing that. that will lose you the mark. This, if you draw this and you're like me and you're slightly off and it doesn't quite hit, that will get you all the marks. Even though I'm slightly off on my X's and I didn't quite hit the bottom, that will get you all the marks. If you join the dots like they've done there with a ruler, you won't get anything. End of. Okay? That's a top tip for drawing them.
I wasn't that much of a rush, I was just freehand it anyway.
Just freehand it. Turn the paper around, whatever suits you to draw an arc or whatever. Okay? If, when you're doing your substitution, so you've put in your values for X and it's thrown out some values for Y and you've put your little crosses on, when you come to draw it, the beauty of a quadratic graph is, if you get it wrong, it sticks out like the dog's doodahs. Okay? Because you won't be able to draw your lovely arc. It will be over to one side and it will stick out. You'll know that you've done something wrong. So go back to that point on your calculations and put the value of X in again and check your value of Y is correct. Okay? Good. So let's do one together. Okay. Y equals 3x squared minus 4. So it's a bit more complicated, this one, isn't it? Yeah? The last one was the easiest one, y equals x squared. So we're going to do something slightly more complicated this time. So what we need is, I haven't got a table. I can't believe I didn't put a table in. No, I didn't. Okay? Is we're going to pick some values for x. So let's say minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, and 2. Okay. So what we need to do now is that substitution thing. I need to stick in 4x, the values minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1 and 2. So I put minus 2 into 3x squared. What's the first thing I do?
The indices.
Yep, so minus 2 squared is
4.
4 times the 3 is 12, minus the 4,
8.
8. Can everyone see how we got a value of y as 8? Yeah? Because when I put minus 2 in here for the value of x, minus 2 squared is positive 4. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 minus 4 gives us our 8. Can you see how that works? Yeah? Let's do the same for minus 1 then. I stick minus 1 in. Minus 1 squared is 1. Times 3 is 3. Minus 4.
Minus 1.
Minus 1. Good. Put 0 in. 0 for all that lot. Minus 4.
Minus 4.
Minus 4. I put 1 in. So I get
Minus
1 squared is 1. 3 minus 4 is minus 1. Good. People are doing it really quickly. I put 2 in. 2 2s are 4. Times 3, 12. Minus the 4 is 8 again. A bit of a pattern, isn't there, on this one? Yeah? You can almost see where it's going to bottom out. When you come to plot it, you plot minus 2 against 8, minus 1 against 1, and so on. Yes, something did work. Okay? So when I plotted this, I plotted minus 1 against minus 1, 0 against minus 4, and so on. And that's your parabola. And you were expecting that because x has got a positive value. You're expecting smiley face. Yeah? So when you come to draw your parabola, it looks perfect. So that's medium difficulty. So we've done easy peasy, the medium. Guess what comes next?
Difficult.
Difficult, okay? So here is the hardest thing they can possibly give you. This would be the C-star question on an exam paper, okay? Probably not going to get this. You're probably not going to get anything as complicated as this, but we need to cover it. You've got y equals 2x squared minus 3x plus 4. Oh, I've got a headache thinking about it, right? The simple table might not be for you. So sometimes they will prompt you to break it down into terms. What's a term? Anyone remember what a term is?
Number or value.
Good.
Is it a group of numbers or something?
Yeah, so it's either a number or a letter or a combination of numbers and letters. And they're separated by pluses and minuses. So here we've got a 2x squared term. Here we've got a minus 3x term. And here we've got a plus 4 term. So there are 3 terms in that equation. You remember what a term is now? Yeah?
Yeah.
So what they'll do to you in the exam is, rather than get you to just put a value in, they will break it down into each of the terms and get you to put the values in when you put that number into that term, that number into that term, that number into that term. Oh, nothing to do there. You can't do anything but plus 4. So that's got to be plus 4. When I put minus 1 into 2x squared, what happens? Minus 1 squared is
1.
Times 2 is 2. Put minus 1 times minus 3.
3.
positive 3. Everyone see that? So minus 3x means minus 3 times whatever x is. So it becomes minus 3 times minus 1. Minus times the minus is a positive. 1 times 3 is 3. That's how I got that one. Okay? So now all you need to do is add them up. 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 4 is 7.
I prefer doing it the other way.
Yeah, I think I do.
If you can do it the other way, great. But sometimes they will force you to do this by giving you a partly populated table that looks like this. So if they don't give you the partly populated table, do it straight away. If they give you one of these tables, you need to know how these tables work. And all they're saying is, I put 0 into 2x squared, what comes out? If I put 0 into that, what's the outcome? 0. Because 0 squared is 0 and 2 times 0 is 0. I put 0 into minus 3x, what comes out?
How have you got 7?
I did
Oh, sorry.
It's 9.
9.
I'm
Good
going to
spot.
say, I'm sure it's not me going round.
It's alright, it's me.
Testing us.
That's good, yeah, good test. You passed the test, well done. Carry on. Right. I put 0 into minus 3x. 0. And then I've got a plus 4. So when I add those three together, 4. I put 1 in there. 1 into 2x squared.
2. 1 times 1 is 1,
2, yeah. 1 squared is 1, times 2 is 2. 1 times minus 3,
Minus 3.
minus 3. And then we've got the plus 4. So I've got 4, 5, 6, minus 3, it's 3. I put 2 in.
8.
Yeah, 2
8,
2s are
yeah.
4, times 2 is 8. 2 into here,
6.
minus
1.
6, yeah?
Oh no.
Because 2 times minus 3 is minus 6. And then I've got my plus 4 as usual. So I've got 8 and 4 is 12, take away 6 is 6. This time I put 3 in.
9. 3 times 3 is 9.
18.
18. 3 squared is 9, times 2 is 18. Put 3 in. 3 times minus 3.
9.
What sort of 9?
Minus 9.
Minus 9.
What is it?
3
Just a
is minus
minus.
3 times 3 is minus
Yeah.
9. A negative times a positive. Okay. And then I've got plus 4. So I've got 22 minus 9, 13. This time, because it's a complicated equation, we don't get that evenly spaced, nice looking thing. When you come to plot it, which you might have to do, when x is minus 1, y is 9. When x is 0, y is 4. When x is 1, y is 3. When x is 2, y is 6. And when x is 3, y is 13. So your graph is going to look something like that.
Pete, with
Yeah.
an equation like that, would
I quite like that one,
partly
'cause that's
Yes,
table? It's
they will.
not easy.
They will
Yeah.
give you a partly. If you get a
Getting used to
question as complicated as that, they will give you a partly filled table, and that's one in your homework to
I know
practice
it's all
on.
about 3 and you've got to find the 2 and that's just rubbish.
Yes. So on that table there that we've just done, okay, the ones that they wouldn't give you would probably be this one, this one, this one, this one, and a couple of these. Yeah.
That sucks.
They might leave 4 or 5 of them out, and they'll say complete the table. Okay, and then what they'll say is once your table's complete, use the data from your table to plot this. And then the next question we'll cover after we've done some plotting. So you're happy with how to plot quadratic graphs?
Let's give it a
Easy
go.
peasies, mediums and difficults. Yeah? So substitution to work out your x and y values, and then draw the graph, plot your points, coordinates, and draw your graph.
Oh, okay.
If you own a Casio, you need to know this. Casio warning time. When you square a number on a Casio and you put a negative number in, you might want to try this, and you go minus 3 squared, what does it output? What does it output?
Minus 9.
It says it's minus 9, which we all know is wrong. Because the Casio is doing BODMAS. What's the first thing it comes across in BODMAS to do there? The
Indices.
square. So it squares 3 and it says it's 9. Oh, and you've got a minus as a function. So I've got a minus 9. To force it to do a square of a negative properly, you have to tell it that I'm not squaring 3 and then putting a minus sign in. I'm squaring the number that is minus 3. So to get the right answer with a negative square on a Casio, you have to say minus 3 is a number and then square it. So you have to put the minus 3 into brackets. So now try that on your calculator.
Not just a pretty.
So that's the first bit. That's how you generate the points to plot the quadratic graph. And once you've got your coordinates, you put them on the graph paper and you draw your lovely smooth parabola. Okay. So what we're going to move on to now is we're going to find solutions to problems. Okay. So this is how an exam paper is more likely to look. They're going to give you a nasty equation: 6 plus x plus minus x squared is equal to y. What sort of parabola are we looking at there? What's it going to draw?
A negative.
A negative is a
Upside down smiley
grumpy.
face.
Call it grumpy.
Okay. Sad.
Sad. It's going to draw a sad face. And what they'll do is they'll give you a table with the values they want you to plot, and they have to do that to force you to draw the parabola in the correct place. And they will also give you a couple of values that they've put in and got answers out for. So if you want to, you can check to make sure what you're doing is correct. So the next stage for a couple of marks will be fill in the blanks. So if I put minus 1 into there, what does it throw out? I put minus 1 into that equation.
4.
4?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go for 4. 6 minus 1 is 5. Minus 1 squared, which is a positive 1. So 5 minus 1 is 4. I put 0 in, dead straightforward. Nothing, nothing, 6. And then you do the other side, okay? And that's going to draw you a parabola that looks something like that, okay? Where that's going to be 6 and that's going to be 6. Here's another one of the complicated, okay? So this is a complicated equation. This is the worst case scenario.
Okay.
Sharp intake of breath. Yeah. And they could give you one of these. So they could give you a complicated equation with a load of blanks in a table. So all you have to do is each of the terms. So when you get the breakdown of each of the terms, you just put the value into that term to find out what comes out.
Okay.
So I put minus 1 into minus 2x, and what do I get? Lefties. What do I get when I put minus 1 into here? What does minus 2x mean? What's that in longhand? Good, so we know what it means. So now I swap the x for minus 1. What's the out?
2.
Yeah, minus minus is a plus. 1 times 2 is 2. So that would be positive 2. Minus 8 hasn't got any x's, so it's minus 8 on its own. So you've got 2 and 1 is 3. Take away 8. Minus 5. Good. So it's as straightforward as that. And you go across the table and you do the same for each of the terms and put the answers in across the bottom. Okay? Happy with that? Do you want to try any more on this one?
No.
Keep going. Okay, so I put 1 into this term.
Yeah.
So x squared, what does it mean longhand?
1 times 1.
1 times 1.
Is 1.
Happy with that?
Yeah.
I can't do anything, there's no x's there, so it's always minus 8 on that line. Yeah, I can put all those in,
That's alright then.
because that's all that does. Well, it's nothing, x doesn't affect it, does it?
No.
Okay? So what have we got left? 3. I put 3 into there.
9.
9, because everyone knows 3 squared is 9, allegedly. Okay. And then all you've got is to top them up, your total. What is y? 1 minus 2, minus 1, minus another 8,
Minus 9.
9, take away 6,
Minus 3.
No, it's
No.
3.
3, take away another 8,
Minus 5.
Minus
16, take away 8,
8.
take away another 8.
0.
We've completed the table for
Can I
3
get a whoop
marks.
whoop whoop whoop?
And that's the complicated one. And then what you'd be expected to do is plot the x against the y. The x against the y, the x against the y.
Oh yeah, on the looks so big because of the middle bit.
Because it's broken it down into 3
Yeah,
terms
yeah.
because it's a complicated equation. Yeah. Excellent
Looking at all that
stuff.
points thinking, where are they all going to go?
I think just looking at it just scares you.
yeah,
doesn't it?
a little bit.
Okay?
But sorry, Pete, did you say we might get one of those
You might.
tables?
Yeah, if they give you a complicated quadratic graph, they'll give you a partially filled in table like that, where you have to fill in the blanks on the missing terms. Yeah?
Hope not. Hope we get the other one.
At least it's not blank though.
Generally, as a rule, they give you the medium value one with a partially filled in single
Yeah, I like
strip
that one.
to do 2 or 3 values and then draw the quadratic graph, and you'll see that in a second. So this next bit is about reading quadratic graphs. How can we use them? Okay. Well, I've got a really complicated equation here. I've got 2x squared minus 3x, and I want to solve it. And I want to solve it because I want to know what the values of x are when y is equal to 5. Okay. So in the exam, they won't just give you something like this. They'll break it down into parts. And the first part would be substitute some values of x to work out the value of y and draw your parabola. And once your parabola is drawn, you can then do something really simple.
Is that what you were about before with the line?
This is where we want to solve it where y equals 5. That's what it said, wasn't it? And we know from our maths last couple of weeks ago when we did reflection that we can define a line y equals 5 by drawing a horizontal line across y equals 5. That is y equals 5. So in order to solve this equation, what was the equation? This really complicated equation, 2x squared minus 3x. 2x squared minus 3x equals 5. Okay. All you need to do that, so we know how to plot this now. We substitute values of x in and we draw a lovely parabola. All this last bit of a question is going to ask you is to solve it and swap the value of y for a number. And to do that, you draw a horizontal line across your graph, and where it cuts your parabola, so here and here, you drop down and work out your value of x to solve it is minus 1, and it's 2.5. Yeah?
Just imagining what I would have done if you'd shown me that 9 months ago. I've gone.
But now it's a doddle because you can recognise a quadratic graph and a quadratic equation. You draw, you know it's positive, so you know you're going to draw a smiley face. And when they've swapped y for a number, you just draw a horizontal line across the number, and you can solve a quadratic equation like that. Yeah, quite simple, isn't it? Let's try it with a slightly
So that's
easier
all
one.
you do, just write those 2 numbers. You don't
Yeah.
have to fill them in. So
No, they'll just ask you for the numbers.
Right, okay.
I'll show you with another example. So here, if we cover up the minus 1 and it was just y equals x squared minus 2x minus 4, we know how to plot that now, don't we? We have a load of values that we substitute in there. It gives us a value of y, and because it's a positive x squared, we're expecting a smiley face somewhere on our graph paper. Here, they're forcing the issue and they're saying y has got a value of minus 1. So what do we do?
Draw a horizontal line.
Across
Minus 1.
minus 1. So y is equal to minus 1. They're telling us that's what y is equal to. That's on the other side of the equation. We know x squared minus 2x minus 4 is that parabola, because we've drawn it, we've substituted various values of x. So to solve that equation, where it cuts my parabola is the answer to my question. So the answer to solve this, x is equal to minus 1 and x is equal to 3. And you're looking at me thinking it can't be that easy. It is. Let's put minus 1 and 3 in there. In fact, let's put 3 in and show you. I put 3 into here. What's 3 squared?
9.
Minus
2.
2 times 3?
6.
Minus,
4.
so 9 minus 6 is 3.
3.
Minus 4.
Minus 1.
Oh, blow me. It's magic. It's not magic, it's maths. Yeah? So today, you can spot a quadratic equation, yeah? Because it's got an x squared in it. You know it's going to draw a smiley face because it's positive. You've got the ability to swap the letter x with various numbers and come out with a value of y so that you can plot your lovely smiley face, which is what you've just done. And now, I've just shown you that if we swap y for a specific number, you can draw a line across, and where it hits your parabola and go up to your x values, when you put those x values in, it solves your equation. That is like, wow, proper maths and everything, yeah? Shame it's last day. Okay, happy with that. So, I'm going to show you an exam style question. I've broken it down into 3 bits so we can do the 3 bits together, okay? So, 16, it's quite late on in the paper. So if you're going to get a quadratic graph equation, they tend to be late on in the paper because they're hard, apparently. Not anymore for us, okay? So complete this table of values for y equals x squared minus 2x minus 4.
Okay.
You would have freaked out a couple of days ago if you'd have seen that. But now it's a doddle. And what they've done is they've given you a table that's partially filled in. So for your 2 marks, you've got to fill in 3 blanks. If you're not sure what to do, then you can always check that you're doing the right thing with one of the other numbers and you get what they say is there. So when I put minus 1 in, what's minus 1 squared?
1.
Minus, what's minus 1 times 2? Minus 2. And then minus 4. So I've got 1 minus minus 2, which is
Positive.
positive. So 1 plus 2 is
3.
minus 4.
Minus 1.
I put 1 in there. 1 squared is
1.
1. I put minus 2 times 1 is
2.
minus 4. So I've got 1 take away 2, which is minus 1, minus another 4.
Minus 5.
Brilliant. I put 3 in. 3 squared is
9.
minus 3 times 2 is
6.
minus 4. So 9 minus 6 is
3.
3, minus another 4.
Minus 1.
Minus 1.
There you go. 2 easy peasy marks. Yeah.
Actually guess them, really.
And it's a calculator one. You can put this into your calculator. Beth, you've been doing it. You can put that whole thing into your calculator as long as you use brackets to differentiate between positive and negative numbers, you'll be fine. Okay? So, we come to draw this wonderful graph. So what have we got? Minus 2, 4. So we've got minus 2, 4. We've got to swap in between them. Minus 1, minus 1. So minus 1, minus 1, minus 1.
0 minus 4.
Sorry, minus 1, minus 1. 0 minus 4.
We didn't see
1 minus something else, wasn't it? 1 minus 5. Remember the rest.
Yeah, 2 minus 4.
1 minus 5. 2 minus 4. 3 minus 1. And 4. And that's what it would draw. So for your 2 marks, you'd have plotted that correctly and drawn a lovely, smooth, smiley. Yeah? Happy days?
Say we've worked one figure out wrong, like the one underneath 3, and you know,
Be able to see it.
yeah, you can just
Sometimes
you just know exactly where to put it, don't you? Because it's going to be in line with the minus 1.
That's
so.
what that slide was earlier on. If you get one wrong,
Yeah.
it won't draw you. You'll know you're off. And the beauty about
You'll know
GCSE foundation
Yeah.
level is they've given you 4 points, so you can almost see it before you've put in your values. They want you to draw the parabola correctly. They're trying to help you. Yeah, they're giving you 4 out of 7 points. So if I drew those 4 points on here, I'd know where the others are anyway, wouldn't I?
Yeah.
The question is, will my brain still be working by a
I know.
I hope so.
Probably with brain, it's over.
It's the biggest hour and a half of your life. It isn't. It's the medium paper. The hard paper is Unit 2. Unit 3 is the medium
It just
paper.
shuts down when it sees any algebra. It helps to skip past it.
Oh, my brain loves you. Guess that. Yeah, it's good.
Last part of this question then. So we've had 2, 4. This is the 5th mark in this quadratic graph question on a past paper. Write down the value of x which satisfy y equals minus 3. What do I need to do?
Found y equals minus 3.
Draw a line. So what sort of line am I going to draw?
Horizontal.
Horizontal.
3 minus 3.
So you draw y equals minus 3 on your quadratic graph. What would you do? Find out where it crosses and then,
0.5 and
yeah, minus 0.5. That's 0, that's minus 0.5 and 2.2 or 1 or whatever it is. And then that's it. You don't have to put it into the equation again. You go minus 0.5, 2.1. Take a bow. 5 points in the bow. Everyone happy with that? Right, we're going to wrap up quadratic equations, quadratic graphs. Any questions on anything we've done? If you're still struggling with it or you want more practice on it, there are quadratic graph specific worksheets over there. And I'm sure if you look in these booklets for Unit 3, you'll find lots of quadratic graph type. So, still lesson very similar to what you've just been doing. I'm going to do a lot of substitution. We're going to do something called trial and improvement. Okay? So we're going to try something and then get better at it. Like most things in life, really. Maybe a philosophy for life, that trial and improvement. Okay. The objective, it's a bit wordy. It says, use systematic trial and improvement to find approximate solutions of equations where there's no simple analytical method for solving them. Essentially what it's saying is, we're going to get some complicated equations and we're going to solve them by sticking various numbers in. It's as easy as that, okay? It's a real calculator heavy one, this one. So, let's look at solving things that we've done in the past. Go back to week 5, when we did our first algebra lesson and the basics of algebra. We could use common sense to solve something. If I've got something take away 2 is equal to 8, my brain tells me if I stuck 10 in there, I'd solve it.
Yeah.
Yeah? Common sense approach. Then we built our skills, didn't we? We learned about this thing called algebra. And we built our skills and then we could solve something that's slightly more complicated like this. And we recognise that now like that, don't we? Because that is what?
No.
Not the answer. What is it? It's a two-step equation. We'll get onto the answer in a second. So it's a two-step equation which we solve by doing what? Step 1?
Minus 6. Plus
12
6.
plus 6.
So it leaves,
2x.
and step 2,
Divided by 2.
and that's exactly what Autumn said, 9 straight away, yeah? So you're doing these in your sleep now, aren't you? Because you're spotting two-step equations like that, and you will get them in all 3 papers, okay? Good. Then, there might be something slightly more complicated, like this. And I might say, solve it. We haven't shown you the maths how to solve that, so you use something called trial and improvement. I'm going to pick a number, 5. If I pick 5 and swap it for x, I end up with that. What's the output?
30.
So that's too
Small.
low. I put in 7. What's the output?
56.
Too.
Too high.
High.
Let's try 6.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's right.
Our first go at trial and improvement, that's how it works. That's the good news. Guess what the bad news is?
They're not as easy as that.
They're not as easy as that. They're not going to be nice round numbers. They generally will give you a nice round number to put you in the ballpark, and you're going to have to find a solution to 1 decimal place. So they're not going to be as easy as that. Okay? So just trial and improvement, all these words are saying is basically you put in a number, you go higher or lower based on what it is. And you can carry on that process for quite complicated equations and solve really complicated equations using this play your cards right, Brucey type thing, higher, lower, lower, higher type thing, okay? So that's what we're going to do. X cubed plus 9x equals 40. You can solve that off the top of your head. I can't, I couldn't even start, okay? So the way you do it and the way it'll work in the exam is generally if you cover up everything below 2 and 3, they will tell you that the answer lies somewhere between the numbers of 2 and 3. So step 1, they're going to tell you that the answer is between 2 and 3. So the best thing to do is just stick in the numbers 2 and 3 and see what it throws out. So if I put 2 in here, what's 2 cubed?
16, is it?
8.
8. Yeah? Plus 2 times 9.
18.
So that's where 26 comes from. So can you see where that comes from?
Mm-hmm.
And then they put in 3. So 3 cubed is
27.
plus
27.
is, that's where that comes from. So can you see what they're doing? However, when you've done that, 2 is too big and 3 is too small. So now we're into having to put in decimals, and this is where it gets complicated and you need your calculators because I can't do this off the top of my head. So what they've gone for next is 2.5. They've split the difference between 2 and 3. So they've stuck 2.5 into there. So 2.5 cubed plus 9 times 2.5, they're saying is 38.125. That is too small. So they then tried 2.7. 2.7 cubed plus 2.7 times 9 gave them 43.983. That was too big. So they then tried 2.6. They put in 2.6 and they end up with 40.976, which again is too big. So this is the tricky bit. You've trapped it. You only need the answer to 1 decimal place, and you know the answer lies somewhere between 2.5, which is too low, and 2.6, which is too high. Can you see how that works?
Yeah.
So what they do next is they split the difference and they put in 2.55 because that lies between 2.5 and 2.6. And I recommend writing this little line down, yes, like a number line. When they put 2.55 in, the answer was too small. So where does the answer lie then? If 2.55, which is the exact halfway point, is too low,
2.56.
that way.
2.57.
So to one decimal place, your answer is 2.6. And they'll only ever ask you to one decimal place, and that's it, done. Okay? So can you see how the process works? We'll try it. Okay, we'll do another one together, just so we get it. So the first step is put in the two values they give you. The second step is pick something in between or closer to one than the other if it's closer to one. And then start going higher and lower. And once you've got two one decimal places that you know it's between, split the difference, and that will tell you which one to round it to. Okay, that's what that's all about. So here's an example. They've got x cubed plus x equals 75. And they've actually done the whole number for you. They know it's somewhere between 4 and 5, because 4 was too low and 5 was too big. And they've kind of given you that. They've just, it's nonsense. In the new papers, they won't write all that because it's just throwing you. They'll just come straight here and they will say the solution lies somewhere between 4 and 5. Here's a table, off you go. And they've given you 4.5. So you might need your calculators to help me out here because I can't do this off the top of my head. So they've put in 4.5 and they've got 95.625, which is too high. So you tell me, what should we try next?
4.3.
Let's try 4.3 then. So can somebody put in, or all of you put in, 4.3 cubed plus 4.3? We'll do it by committee.
83.8.
83.807.
807. 807.
807, sorry. Which is too
High.
high. Okay, so we're too high. What should we try next then?
4.1.
4.1. Put in 4.1, cube it for me, plus 4.1. You're not playing, Cara?
I can't seem to get the same answers on this calculator.
Ah, because of the cube.
73.021.
73.021. Too
Low. Oh,
Yeah, I'm doing it now.
it's too
So
low.
we've put in 4.1, we've got 73.021, we want 75 at the top, so it's too low. So what should we put in next?
4.2.
Let's put in 4.2 then. I love the sound of clicking calculator.
78.288.
78.288, which is too
High.
High.
high. So we've gone high, low, high, low, high, low. Okay?
4.15.
So you know what we're doing now. So we know it's 4.1 is too low, 4.2 is too high. So I've got 4.1 this side, I've got 4.2 that side. I need to split the difference. So I'm going to put in 4.15.
And that's yeah.
It's, sorry, 4.15 gives us,
75.623375.
and that is too.
Too high.
So if 4.15, which is our middle point, is too high,
4.1.
where does my answer lie?
4.1.
To the left there somewhere, yeah? Because my middle point's too high, so the answer must be to the left of that middle line. So to one decimal place, the solution to that equation is 4.1. Happy days? Can we see how we got these numbers? Lisa, you're slightly slow. You'll get plenty of practice.
So you might not get the exact answer, but the nearest one. Is that what you?
No, you're getting the answer to one decimal
To
place.
the nearest decimal place.
That's all they're going to ask you.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll never ask you two decimal places, just one. Okay?
It's not messing up. Do you know what I mean?
Let's have another play then. The solution to x cubed plus 2x is 56. Give your answer to one decimal place. So 3 is too low. What should we go for?
5.
Four.
Oh,
Let's go 4.
need to shout.
Stick in 4 then. 4 cubed.
64. Oh, plus. 72.
72.
72.
Too high.
So that's too high. 3.5? Let's go for 3.5. And this table is exactly what it'll look like in the exam, just like this. So 3.5 cubed plus 2 lots of 3.5.
49.875.
49.875, which is 2.
Low.
Ooh. What should we try next?
3.55.
No, because we haven't trapped it yet.
Oh, okay.
We haven't trapped it between one decimal places, have we? We know that's too low,
Yeah.
so we need to try
3.6.
3.6, yeah? We haven't trapped it between 2 decimal
I
places.
see.
We need to trap it. Just like going out on a Saturday night. Bit of trapping.
53.856.
53.856. Everyone agree with that for 3.6? So that's too low. What's next?
3.6.
3.7. I would go. Just to make sure you're trapping it between 2 decimal places.
58.053.
58.053, which is too high. So you're quite right. We're somewhere between 3.6 and 3.7. So what should we put in next? 3.65.
65.
See why a calculator's needed? So what's the outcome for 3.65? So we've trapped it,
55.927125.
which is too
Low cubit.
low. So our midpoint is too low, so where does our answer lie?
3.6.
That
7,
side,
sorry.
Yeah. So 3.7 is the answer. Tick BG. Happy with trial and improvement?
Yep.
Are you ready for some?
Yeah.
Everybody done at least the first 2 or got the hang of the process? Yeah? Excellent. Let's wrap up while you're finishing off that last one. So that is trial and improvement. Okay? The first 2 questions on that worksheet are exactly how they'll give it to you in the exam. They'll give you a complicated equation that's equal to a number. They'll give you the 2 whole numbers that it lies between. You then have to work out what the answer is with trial and improvement. Any questions on what you've covered today? Trial and improvement, quadratics?